Buddha's stance on the concept of God was not rooted in outright denial, but in profound indifference to its relevance in the human pursuit of liberation. His teachings were not aimed at metaphysical speculations, but rather at addressing the core of human suffering and its cessation. To understand why Buddha did not emphasize belief in God, we must delve into his thoughts and the context in which his philosophy arose. Siddhartha Gautama, later known as the Buddha, lived in a time when religious practices in India were deeply intertwined with rituals, sacrifices, and devotion to various deities. The Vedic traditions of his time revolved around the idea that humans could curry favor with gods through rituals performed by priests, who acted as intermediaries. These practices often perpetuated hierarchical structures and externalized the source of human suffering and salvation. For Buddha, this reliance on external forces distracted from the true path to liberation, which he discovered through direct experience and introspection. Buddha saw the human condition as defined by dukkha, or suffering. His insights, encapsulated in the Four Noble Truths, pointed out that suffering arises from craving, attachment, and ignorance. Liberation, or nirvana, could be achieved not by appealing to divine intervention, but by following a disciplined path of ethical conduct, mental cultivation, and wisdom, the Eightfold Path. In this framework, the concept of a god or supreme creator became irrelevant. Even if a god existed, such an entity could not resolve the internal causes of human suffering. Buddha's focus on impermanence, or anicca, also played a key role in his perspective on divinity. He observed that everything in existence is transient, subject to change and decay. This principle applied not only to human life, but also to the cosmos and any beings, including gods, that might exist within it. In Buddhist cosmology, gods are considered impermanent beings within samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. While they may wield great power or live for eons, they are not eternal or omnipotent. Thus, they too are subject to the laws of karma and are ultimately incapable of granting lasting liberation. Buddha was pragmatic in his approach. He discouraged his followers from getting entangled in metaphysical debates about the existence or nature of God because such discussions did not contribute to the cessation of suffering. When asked about matters like the creation of the universe or the existence of a creator, he remained silent or redirected the conversation toward practical aspects of spiritual practice. This silence was not an evasion, but a deliberate strategy to steer attention away from distractions and toward the immediate work of self-transformation. One of the most illustrative examples of Buddha's stance is found in the parable of the poisoned arrow. In this story, a man wounded by a poisoned arrow refuses medical treatment until he has answers to questions like who shot the arrow, their caste, and the type of bow used. Buddha compares this man to those who demand answers to metaphysical questions while ignoring the urgent need to address their suffering. His point was clear. Knowing the answers to such questions will not help alleviate suffering. Only practical efforts will. Buddha's teachings also challenge the very foundation of theism, which often posits a self or soul that can connect with or worship a deity. In his doctrine of anatta or non-self, Buddha dismantled the idea of a permanent, unchanging essence in individuals. If there is no enduring self, the relationship between human beings and a god becomes meaningless. Worshipping a god would imply a duality between creator and creation, which is inconsistent with the Buddhist understanding of existence as an interconnected, ever-changing process. Moreover, Buddha's rejection of a creator god addressed the issue of moral responsibility. In many theistic traditions, morality is often linked to divine commandments and the will of a higher power. Buddha, however, emphasized that morality arises from understanding the consequences of one's actions through the law of karma. This principle places responsibility squarely on the individual. Good and bad actions are not judged by a god, but by their effects on oneself and others, reinforcing the idea that liberation is a personal journey rather than a divine gift. In summary, Buddha did not believe in God because he viewed such a belief as unnecessary and even counterproductive to the goal of ending suffering. His teachings were grounded in self-reliance, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. The existence of a God, whether true or false, did not change the fact that liberation depended on understanding and transforming the human mind. By rejecting the need for divine intervention, Buddha offered a path of empowerment, urging his followers to look inward for the answers to life's deepest questions. Through his silence on metaphysical matters, his emphasis on impermanence and non-self, and his focus on practical ethics, Buddha charted a course that transcended the need for a deity. His philosophy invites us to consider that perhaps the answers we seek are not found in the heavens, but within the depths of our own consciousness.